It is described as one of the scariest shows on TV, and shockingly, all the horrors depicted in it happened in real life. HBO's Chernobyl is a series about one of the worst man-made catastrophes in history. The 1986 accident at the nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat, the Ukrainian SSR. The explosion, which saw about 400 times as much radioactive fallout as the Hiroshima bomb, changed history forever. Now, more than 30 years after the tragedy, children are still being born with horrific deformities, which is attributed to the contamination levels. It was surely a tremendously complicated topic to choose for the series, but the creators totally nailed it, putting Chernobyl on top as one of the most highly rated shows of all times. Let us take a look at what makes it so great. Number 1. Horrifying insider details. The episodes depict step by step how the government responded to the explosion at the power plant.
The state tells us it wants to prevent a panic. Listen well.
Here we deal with the secrecy reflecting the times of Soviet rule. At first, we see how the chief engineers and government officials refuse to even acknowledge that the reactor explosion took place.
I don't see how it could explode. But it did.
The fear of Soviet power at all levels results in the attempt to either deny or cover up the facts. As shocking as it might seem, civilians of the affected areas had no idea what was happening, even after they got evacuated. While the official reason was that politicians wanted to avoid panic, the real explanation behind it appears different. The USSR leadership refused to admit its failures, even if it had to be done at the cost of thousands of lives.
We hope we have lived up to the highest standards of the KGB.
Around 600,000 recovery operation workers, such as firefighters, called liquidators, did everything from putting out the fire to hosing down streets and building a concrete sarcophagus around the exposed reactor. In the meantime, they were all exposed to extremely high levels of radiation. Nobody realized the dire consequences. Thousands died, millions more got affected. Number 2. You can't take your eyes off the picture. Like Game of Thrones, Chernobyl was filmed on location in several places associated with the Chernobyl plant. And like in Game of Thrones, it uses computer graphics to create structures that don't exist in real life. All this, together with some practical effects utilized to recreate the environmental conditions, making you feel in the middle of the chaos.
Contain the spread of misinformation.
Away from the disaster itself, everything is grayscale. You might allege it makes the picture boring, but you would be so wrong. The color scheme is a very intentional, dramatic choice, putting you into the scary atmosphere of the moment. Chernobyl doesn't shy away from violence, blood, or disturbing imagery. Severe radiation poisoning is one of the most horrific ways to die imaginable. The bodies of those exposed to it start melting from inside out. This is what was happening to the first responders exposed to radiation and to bystanders observing the accident. Number 3. Great acting. First of all, let's be clear. There are no good or bad guys in this story. Or as nuclear physicist Legasov says in the beginning of the series, there was nothing sane about Chernobyl.
A just world is a sane world. There was nothing sane about Chernobyl.
The circumstances made people behave in various ways. Someone turned out to be a hero, someone a coward. The mentioned Legasov, brilliantly played by Jared Harris, gives a deeply emotional performance as a man who opposes the Soviet life-threatening bureaucracy.
Will burn and spread its poison until the entire continent is dead.
Stellan Skarsgård as Boris Sherbina disappears into the role of a disciplined theocrat who starts silently questioning the official party line. He initially clashes with Legasov, but soon his character develops as he realizes the scales of tragedy. Emily Watson plays fictional character Ulyana Khamjuk, a fearless nuclear physicist who's trying to get to the bottom of what happened at Chernobyl.
To hell with your deal. To hell with our lives. Someone has to start telling the truth.
If we still have not persuaded you to watch Chernobyl, check out this. At present, Chernobyl is the highest-rated TV show of all time on IMDB. And yes, it has outperformed Game of Thrones. If you watched it, let us know what you liked the most about the series. And don't forget to subscribe.